Soviet lieutenant colonel. This Russian officer appeared agitated as he approached the gate, speaking fluent German. "My comrades are armed and authorized to use our weapons in an emergency." The group withdrew. The face of that Soviet officer remained burned in Siegfried's mind, and also the name when he later learned it. It was Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, the future Russian president. Putin was then assigned to Dresden on his first foreign KGB posting. On that day, a Stasi-issued identification card was in his pocket. Throughout the chaos on the streets that week, Putin and the 3 other KGB officers sitting on the second floor of the house on Angelikastrasse that evening naturally assumed they'd receive ample protection from a nearby Soviet tank regiment that was based in the city. The tank commander was close and indeed fully prepared to intervene with brute force. He only waited for the call from Moscow, which they were all sure would soon come. It never did. Moscow was silent, they were all told. Many of those in the know believe this incident and the resulting rapid fall of the secret police and communist East Germany had a profound impact on Putin. He was soon forced to hastily drive back to his hometown of Leningrad, which had suddenly become St. Petersburg again, in disbelief, with little besides his wife and a 20-year-old washing machine that he'd received as a gift. It was over. On arriving in St. Petersburg, his colleagues at the KGB even started referring to him by a new nickname, Stasi. This was the end for a young Vladimir Putin, and for the ruthless Stasi. Everything was finished. Or was it? Part 1. 1. Personal destruction as a fine art. It was a crisp fall morning in 2008, and dawn had barely arrived. The sort of day that warned of yet another early and brutally cold Baltic winter. I was driving a vehicle with diplomatic plates on a deserted road, speeding to a location very near the Russian border. As the deputy FBI agent responsible for liaison in the region with criminal or terrorist investigations involving all of the 56 Domestic Bureau field offices, I was in yet another unusual job. Next to me that morning, riding shotgun, was an ethnic Russian police officer from that Baltic state. I knew Anatoly well, having worked with him on cases involving organized crime and cybercriminals that touched his country and the United States. As is usually true, many found it irresistible and not so difficult to steal from America. Computers made it dramatically easier to do so from the safety of St. Petersburg or a Moscow suburb. But sometimes they crossed a border, and sometimes they waited a little too long to cross back. As a rule, while working overseas, I always carefully avoided mentioning politics or history with any of my contacts. That was especially true in formerly occupied countries. There was tragedy of many kinds everywhere in Eastern Europe, and it was frequently unclear which type someone had borne. The people here were warm and genuine, but also hesitant and somewhat formal. It was still odd enough to come across an American, besides the occasional adventure-seeking tourist. However, law enforcement people worldwide share 2 things. One is wanting to get the bad guy, and the other is talking when bored. Anatoly leaned back in the seat and sighed, fingering a cigarette with obvious regret, since he knew he couldn't smoke it for another 45 minutes. "So, many in America think that we are all happy here now?" "You mean you're not? But why?" I paused, noticing him staring at his hand. "You can smoke that, no problem for me. Just roll down the window." He grinned but shook his head, instead tucking the wrinkled cigarette into his breast pocket. "My parents are not..."